Mr. Speaker, I have great pleasure in supporting it. Thank you very much.
Lewis Wall.
Kia ora, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity to contribute. I am the spokesperson for sport and recreation, so I will bring a different spin on this bill. So I want to acknowledge the Minister has brought the Game and Animal Council bill to the House, but for all intents and purposes, it's really a private member's bill. But because of the situation he's in, he's managed to negotiate, as part of his confidence in supply agreement, this bill. And Labor is supporting the debate. I think it's really important that the interest groups have an opportunity to have a say. And actually some of those interest groups we've heard the concerns from, particularly from the Green spokesperson. So I want to acknowledge that at this point in the proceedings we are going to take into consideration what the affected parties have to contribute. So when I look at the purpose of this bill, it said the main purpose of this bill is to establish the Animal Game Council, quotes, to improve the management of deer, tahr, chamois and wild pig, including the improvement of opportunities to hunt those animals. So the premise is you need animals to hunt, not the actual hunting process itself. So it's been really interesting for me to look at what research is being done in this area. And so in June 2010, Amelia Woods and Geoffrey Carey produced a research report for Land, Environment and People. It's a Lincoln University study which looked at recreational game hunting. It looked at the motivations, the satisfactions and the participation of those hunters. And the report found that for most hunters, and these are both overseas and New Zealand hunters, that they were motivated to hunt for the following reasons. Because they enjoyed being in or experiencing nature, that they enjoyed the social aspect of time with family or hunting companions, that they were engaging in an exciting activity, and they got solitude, challenge, sport and exercise from hunting. So while getting a kill is a desired outcome from a hunt, not all hunters are primarily motivated by this aspect or this activity. So I think that's really interesting to note given the evidence about the purpose of this bill. I did want to highlight some of the interest groups, and as Sport and Rec spokesperson, I have to ensure that, for example, hunting, fishing, the fact that for a lot of New Zealanders enjoying our natural environment is a pursuit that they not only enjoy but the community enjoys. And actually when we look at TV shows like ITM Fishing, there's Trade Zone Gone Fishing on TV3, Outdoors with Jeff and Hunting Aotearoa, that actually this issue in this area is something that New Zealanders are really interested in. But they're interested in it within a context, and that context is the beautiful green Aotearoa that we have. When I look at, for example, some of the organisations that this is relevant to, I look at the Fish and Game New Zealand, which is a statutory body, and it was set up under the Conservation Act of 1987 to manage, maintain and enhance sports, fish and game, birds for present and future generations of anglers and hunters. So when I look at the history of groups that engage in this activity, there's been a dual focus of environmental protection, environmental enhancement, enjoying our environment. So I think that we have to make sure we're not going to compromise that which a lot of entities are deriving pleasure from. And so I just want to highlight that. But it is the underlying theory of us as a nation having an environment that we can enjoy. So we have to keep central to any bill what the unintended consequences may be from introducing species and their impact on the environment. Looking at the whole context of hunting in New Zealand, it's interesting to note that game hunting in New Zealand is primarily governed by two factors. So one is obtaining a hunting licence or permit, which is administered by the Department of Conservation, and if using a firearm, it's about obtaining a firearms licence from the New Zealand Police. So the conditions contained in the hunting licence or permit have to be observed, and some of the conditions around that licence or permit is about not just discharging firearms in the vicinity of huts, tracks and camping grounds, not spotlighting on public property, and not hunting 30 minutes after sunset or 30 minutes before sunset. So again, all these rules are about ensuring that there are multiple uses of our environment, and so we have to make sure that those who are there to tramp, to camp, to just enjoy what New Zealand have to offer, they're not going to be adversely affected by this bill. The other thing I'd like to highlight and take the opportunity to highlight is that it's really hard to see how this bill will address the issue of an enforceable or explicit code of practice for hunters. We do have one for game bird hunting, which has a code of practice, but it's going to be really interesting to see how this code of practice will impact on people who aren't unregulated or belong to clubs. I mean, there are a lot of people that I know back in Taupō who hunt because they like to put food on the table. And actually they get the permits from the local iwi groups because they go pig hunting to feed the whānau. So how are we going to make sure that these people are going to also have this code of practice for hunters? So it's something just to highlight. But if the underlying purpose of the bill is in fact to prevent the types of hunting accidents and tragedies, then I don't think the bill is the answer. If the bill seeks to manage the hunting of specific types of game animals, then surely the granting of hunting licences and permits is the starting point for this type of control. But I look forward to the opportunity for interested parties to have a say, which is why we are supporting this to the Select Committee stage, but we have serious reservations about the unintended consequences if this bill proceeds. Thank you.
Jamie Lee Ross.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to